Jonathan Williams, our friend from the American Legislative Exchange Council, joins me. Good morning, Jonathan. How are you?
Well, good morning, my friend. I'm doing well. Good to be back with
Now,
you as
Jonathan,
always.
for some reason I think you're a Southerner. Am I right about? Or did you go to school in the South?
Well, not really. I'm a Midwesterner, as have the I know we have the fun Ohio Michigan back and forth myself,
That's
but
it. I knew
that's
you were
right.
from a place that had lost a lot. So I,
Unfortunately, the place that
so
lost
that
fight to work this last year, right? I mean, we've taken it on the chin this year economically.
Michigan fans always say, just wait until last year. Jonathan, I'm glad you're here from the American Legislative Exchange Council. First of all, rich states, poor states. Where was Hawaii before the disaster on the richstatespoorstates.com list of rich states, poor states that you put together?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Hawaii has already been a poor state for many years when it comes to our ranking. Generally being in the bottom 10 for economic outlook and competitiveness. Obviously, huge tax burdens, very high regulatory regime, big spending for a very long time in Hawaii. And seeing the devastation there, I mean, they're really going to need to figure out how to turn things around, obviously, going forward.
Now, with Maui basically out of commission as a tourist destination for a long time, I mean, it'll be at least 6 months before they get people to, like Kauai went through after the hurricane a dozen years or so ago, maybe 20 years now. What happens to a state that's so dependent on tourism when its third or its second largest draw goes down the tubes?
No, I mean, right. I mean, this is, nearly unprecedented at the scale. I mean, with Hawaii being a relatively small state, I mean, obviously a state like California or Florida or others can weather, those disasters in a much, different way, just given the size and scope of their economies. But I mean, I think this is somewhat unprecedented, the level of disaster that we're going to see, and we've seen, and what the rebuild might look like in that time frame of tourism really returning to the Hawaii Islands. There, I think is it's going to be something that we're going to, unfortunately have to see play out here as to looking at the scope of what it means to have that state's economy really have a rebound. But I mean, one thing, Hugh, that's clear is, I think they've got to start doing something different when it comes to overall competitiveness. If you've lost this, really jewel of tourism there, at least for the moment at Maui, the state's got to recalibrate. I mean, this has got to be a time where come together to say, what do we need to do differently as a state to weather this storm and put ourselves on sure footing going forward?
Now, Jonathan, I want to give the governor a lot of slack. It's a shock, right? So he may not know what he's talking about, but Josh Green is the governor, and he got asked questions about recovery yesterday, and this is what he said, cut number 11, Josh Green, the governor of Hawaii.
I'm already thinking about ways for the state to acquire that land so that we can put it into workforce housing, to put it back into families, or to make it open spaces in perpetuity as a memorial to people who were lost. We want this to be...
Jonathan Williams, he wants to acquire the burned out land to build public housing or to create a memorial or open space. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, you have to, off the cuff, I think you have to just think about what are the livelihoods, right, of the entrepreneurs, right, as well. I mean, this is something where they're going to be, their livelihood has already been just, taken away at the moment. But, we're talking about them in a permanent remake of what was, what at one point, and I've spent some time there. I'm sure you have, Hugh, and many of your listeners. It's just a crown jewel of American tourism, right? An incredible experience to go and have that, and to think of the multi-generation, families, small businesses, entrepreneurs that have been able to, not only give a great experience to all of us who would like to go and experience that incredible spot, but then to have that ability to provide for the families and their communities. I mean, I think that would be a huge shift, right? And it's a huge expansion of government's authority then to come in and take this land over.
Yeah, I just want to say that is exactly the wrong thing in my view. Now, they do have a need for housing on Hawaii, and maybe some entrepreneur who owns that land that's been burned down will want to take the insurance and build some affordable units, or they might want to build a very pricey unit, or I don't know. But if you go to Lahaina and you turn right, you head up to Kapalua and other resorts. If you turn left, you head down to the South Shore resorts. And so Lahaina is everything. I can't believe he's talking about taking the land away from the private landowner, Jonathan. It's like exactly the wrong thing to do.
Yep. No, I think it's a huge mistake, right? I mean, and obviously everyone wants to give them some grace right now of what they're going through, but to use this tragedy to have government's power expanded like that, to kind of remake what we've seen be one of the most successful pieces of Hawaiian Islands in terms of a commercial and tourism hub, it'd just be, I think, devastating.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I want to get you on China before I let you go, Jonathan. We've got a story here in the Wall Street Journal this morning. China turns to well-honed playbook, cut rates, hide data. What do you make of any economic system that is not transparent about its performance?
Oh, right. I mean, you just can't take anything what it says at face value, right? I mean, so we have really no idea of how deep the problems are right there right now. I mean, we know to some extent they've got to be deep enough where the regime there in Beijing is talking about fiscal stimulus, right? This was not something that wasn't in their vernacular for the last couple of decades, as they've seen, at least from their own reports. Back to your initial question, Hugh, big GDP growth that has surpassed as kind of an economy on the growth stage. If you believe that, right? I mean, that's the big question. And now, the news reports saying they're really, rethinking from that growth stage to now like a rebuild in terms of stimulus and more government command and control. I mean, I think just by taking them at their word at that level, I don't think they would be forecasting and showing weakness intentionally. I think there's something very serious going on right now if even the Chinese government outlets are saying we need fiscal stimulus now to build back up the economy.
I think they're at their own 2008. There's a fiscal crisis and a real estate crisis coming. Jonathan, I want to finish by talking about AI because I'm going to be talking with Tristan Harris of the Center for Humane Technology. Have you used an AI program yet like ChatGPT?
Yeah, in limited ways we have. We've actually just had this discussion when we were together in Orlando at our meeting, where many of our private sector members are using it extensively. And there's many other nonprofit groups such as ourselves and think tanks that are beginning to use it on a limited basis. But I mean, obviously, this is a new world, right? And everyone's trying to figure out the best applications for the work that they're doing.
What I would like to know, based on Rich States, Poor States, which is one of the key indexes for me, I use it almost every day on the show, richstatespoorstates.com, if your own version. If you input all the rankings and the data, I would like to cross-index state pension retirement funds against companies in those states, because I wouldn't want to be in a blue fund, not just a blue state, but a blue fund. You could be in a red state, but if they're invested in a blue state, that would be bad. Have you tried that yet?
Well, not yet, but that's a great idea that I think we will, and it's a great suggestion. But I mean, your overall point is exactly right in terms of the blue state pension plans. Not only are they massively underfunded, but the other thing that we've been spending a ton of time, as you know, Hugh, talking about is this, scam of politically based investing in the blue state pensions, where they're now all of a sudden, not just tobacco 20 years ago, like California did, but now trying to divest from all fossil fuel related investments. And guess what? That makes a really bad situation in these state pension funds just horrible in terms of the overall outlook on growth, because you're taking that incredible return upside potential and putting people's whatever is climate concerns, Green New Deal concerns, whatever else is going to be ahead of the long-term retirements for police officers and firefighters and teachers in these blue states. So whether you're a company or whether you're a retiree or a taxpayer in these states, right? I mean, this is a huge problem that not enough people are looking at right now, because there's active bills in almost all the blue states looking to divest from fossil fuels or energy-related stocks.
So, Scott, Jonathan, I want to go all the way around to where we began, which is Maui. If we looked at their pension fund right now, however terribly underfunded it was a week ago, what do you think its risk factor is now for the public employees' pension in Hawaii?
Well, right. I mean, the ability to make those annual payments that come from state tax dollars that come heavily from tourism, right, in a state like Hawaii with their general sales tax and excise tax, it's going to be a huge problem going forward. And of course, Hawaii already is dealing with some of these radical left-wing progressive ideas of taking pension investments away from long-term returns and looking at other political considerations. That's a huge threat there right now. You take away the cash flow element of this from the tax revenue coming in, and we're looking at a potential disaster when it comes to the pension system long-term, and potentially more cries for a federal bailout again of state pensions, something that you and I have talked about multiple times. It's just not tenable to continue down this road when it comes to these state pensions.
And that's why I think we're going to look at Hawaii first as the canary in the coal mine on state pension. Jonathan Williams, I will see you at the ALEC banquet, if not before. American Legislative Exchange Council. Go over to richstatespoorstates.com, get that book, and you'll know everything you need to know about the state governments.